Calling from a 203 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
This is Ray from Connecticut.
Ray from Connecticut. What's going on?
How you doing, Sam?
I'm doing good. You voting?
Man, hanging in there. I just got a quick question for you, man. They were talking about your numbers last week. Just got to give some love to the hood, Sam. We out here, we rocking with you. You got the old black guy anger. It translates well over here, so we've been tuning in. We've been subscribing, man. Just wanted to, show the love.
All right, appreciate it.
Y'all got to let us know you love us back, man.
Sam has old black guy anger.
I do.
Yeah, you do. That's right.
Yo, Mike, I'm telling you, the day when he found out about the Supreme Court and you guys are talking about something and he just spazzed and was like, shut up! That's my dad, man. We're like,
so I remember that. I actually wasn't in that day because I was really sick. And somebody sent me a clip of it actually. And what was amazing was someone was like, Kennedy's retiring, and Jamie's like, yeah, and you could listen to the Antifada, and I thought you were going to jump over the desk. And start physically. I was like, whoa, look at Sam. This is wild. That was the most awkward. It was like the most awkward plug. And Sam, I thought Sam was either going to turn into the Hulk or die.
I will admit that was not my best timed moment.
I don't totally remember it.
You're literally, Sam's like,
that.
Kennedy is retiring. Life is over. Yeah. And you can listen to the Antifada about why the Supreme Court is bullshit. And he goes, we're not talking about that. We're talking about the fucking Supreme Court.
Can you please get it right?
No,
he saw
that
the
was
news.
Exactly right.
He did not say the news yet. I was attempting to finish the last conversation, but he was done.
That's what you're talking about, right? That was when the middle-aged black hanger came out.
Yeah, I had a quick question.
All right, let Ray ask a quick question. We're getting sidetracked here.
I've been trying to get more involved, especially talking to my family because, they're super, super, super religious. So I was talking about my dad, why wasn't it more important in our community to, being more involved in politics? And, just a quick story or whatever, my wife is white, and he looks over his shoulder, and he says to me, he's like, I had a white girlfriend before. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, I had to hide in the trunk because, he was a busboy and she was a waitress. And he said, if I wanted to see her at night, I had to hide in the trunk because if we were caught together, I literally would, I was afraid I would get murdered.
Right.
And so when he was just, trying to, just tell me it's even though we've come really far or whatever, he looked at me and he's like, son, this is what it's always been like for me. What it's always been like for me. He's 72 years old and he's like, I've always had this experience with America. It's never been welcoming for me. So my job, he felt it wasn't important to be involved in politics, but to show me how to survive. He made sure I had a trade. I'm an electrician.
Right.
And he wanted me to be able to take care of myself. And everybody was calling yesterday and it made me think, it's like, those are some questions because there are some people that have I didn't have a comeback for it because it was such a visceral answer. He's like, I hid in a trunk when I wanted to hang out with my girlfriend because I was afraid to get, because they're from the South, he was in Florida, and we moved up here to Connecticut where, when he wanted to start over and get away from that type of stuff. And I was just wondering, do you guys have any type of advice for people that are trying to talk to that generation that do have a lot of trauma attached to,
I would say that, it's a hard argument. It's a hard argument to make, right? His experience of the United States has been one where politics don't matter that much. But I would say this to him is that the reason why you don't have to, Ray, don't have to hide in a trunk is a function of, largely the activism of people in your father's generation, but also to some extent having politicians who needed to respond to it as opposed to needed to not respond to it. You know what I'm saying? Right? If Donald Trump is not going to respond to that, the Republican Party is not going to respond to that. They are a party who are all all invested in the id of 95% white people that populate their party, and having, it's not the end all be all, but having the right people in office for that type of progress is necessary. And I would just say, like, it's a difference. It's not maybe it's not a world-changing difference, but the idea that you don't have to hide in that trunk now is in part a function of politics. Or at the very least, electoral politics. It's certainly a function of politics.
Don't lose it, Sam. Feel that?
No, that's a great point. Thanks. Love you guys. Thanks. And just keep up the good work, because I had no idea about any of this stuff. I started following your libertarian clips, and I was like, this is... And for all those libertarians that called and said none of this shit would happen, it's all happening. He was right. Stuck on it. It's a zero-sum game, Mike. It's a zero-sum game.
Appreciate the call, Ray.
Thanks, guys.
You got to call more.
Thanks, Ray. Appreciate it.
That's a very strong contender caller right there.
Yeah.